Hey y'all, Pebbles here on today's crafts. Whether you're a regular or a first-time viewer, thank you for stopping in. Today, I'm DIYing nautical / beach decor for the bathroom. So, let's get started. This first DIY was inspired from an image I saw on Pinterest. Here I have glass gems, a container of soap, scissors, and floral picks. I needed to get the label off, so I started off using scissors, but it was kind of hard to do, so then I went and got an X-Acto knife, and it was a lot easier. Once I cut a slit in it, then I was just able to pull the label off. I ended up with a clear container, which was what I wanted. I removed the pump and laid it on a foam plate. To give some room to work with, I poured some of the soap into a cup. Then I started dropping the gems inside. I'll give a list of all the items and where I got them in the description box. I was hoping the opening at the top was large enough, and this worked great. I used a wooden dowel to kind of spread them out. I took a piece of the boxwood and stuck it in the opening and pushed it down with the dowel. Now when it came to the lilac, I wasn't crazy about the plastic piece on the top, so I clipped it off and then I stuck it inside. There were a ton of bubbles, but after it sit overnight, they were all gone the next morning. That's it for this one, and I like it a lot. For this DIY, I took 2 glass containers with lids and spray painted them with Krylon matte sea green. I did this out in our shop, aka Fishing and Stuff headquarters. This paint right here is awesome. It is an all-in-one paint and primer, so it gives really good coverage. After it dried, I gave it another coat, but only because I missed a few spots. Once they were dry, I took them back inside and I measured how long the nautical rope needed to be by wrapping it around the jar. Then I just clipped away the excess with scissors. To attach the rope, I ran a bead of hot glue around the jar in sections. I put some extra glue on the end of the rope to keep it from being all wildly and fraying. And then I used a thingamajig to push it down. I continued working in sections till I got to the end. I had left extra rope, so I trimmed it off so they would butt together. I finished it off with more hot glue, and that's it. Next, I wanted to DIY a tray that I saw on Pinterest by Home Depot. I started off by cutting 45-degree angles on each end of 4 paint stir sticks, measuring 9.5 inches in length. I used my miter box to do this, and you'll see why I cut these angles in just a bit. To make the galvanized plank, I took a sheet from a sign that I got on clearance from Hobby Lobby because the back was blank, and I laid a stir stick on top and scored it with a box cutter. I made about 3 cuts, and then I was able to bend it and break it apart. I used clear Gorilla Glue to glue it to the stir stick, and I used my handy little clips to hold it while it dried. I added the glue to the sides of the sticks with dabs of hot glue between and clamped them where they meet. The hot glue holds it together while the wood glue dries. I was careful not to put too much glue because I didn't want it to run out and make a mess. And I used one of those plastic cutting mats from the Dollar Tree to protect my work surface. And I just added some clamps and let it set up to dry. I'm going to be honest, this is the first tray I ever made, and I'm sure there's some things that I could have done better, but here we are. To make the sides, I cut the corners at 45-degree angles. I tried out my new little Japanese dovetail pull saw, and it cut pretty good. The 2 longest sides measure 11 inches and the smallest at 7. I tried to glue this sucker together and it was a bust. So I had an idea. I made a template out of chipboard by butting up the miter corners and laying chipboard on top and tracing it. I used the template to cut the shape out of the copper metal sheets. These sheets are thin, so they're easy to cut with scissors and they're flexible. I used Gorilla Glue to glue the copper sheets to the corners, and I added more clips to hold it as I went along. As you can see here, the sheets are really easy to bend into place. Once it was dry, I took large popsicle sticks that I cut to size and glued them to the bottom using Gorilla Glue and hot glue. I glued the decorative side down, and as you can see, cutting the angles on the ends made it more flush to the sides. After letting the tray fully dry for 24 hours, I cut my stencils out on my Cricut maker. I used Waverly's chalk paint and truffle, and I just dabbed the paint on instead of brushing it on. I used my heat gun to dry it just a little bit, but not all the way. I removed the tape and the stencils, and I used my weeding tool to pick out all the little pieces that were on the inside. Now, if you don't have a die cutting machine, you can purchase stencils, freehand, or even use granite paper to trace a printable. I was really going at it and didn't realize I was getting off camera, or almost off camera. Sorry about that. Alright, so the next thing I did was give it a good coat of polyurethane all over. I measured and marked where I wanted my handles to go. I drilled 2 holes on each side big enough for my nautical rope to pass through. It splintered a little bit, so I did a little sanding. The final step is to add the handles. I started off with a knot on one end of nautical rope, and I fed it through the hole from the inside and into the second hole from the outside, leaving both knots on the inside, clipping off any excess rope. That is it. I added dental floss to one jar and Q-tips to the other one. I placed them on the tray along with a vase and a sprig of boxwood. And here's one more look. I hope you enjoyed this video and it inspires you. Till next time, bye y'all.